Good morning. Welcome to a reading of Curing the Bindweed Blues. My name is R. Gary Raham, and I wrote this as an essay for a Colorado Author League Awards. And fortunately, it was a winner in the essay category. So, by way of introduction, the bindweed was a pernicious plant that I found when I tried to raise a garden in Colorado. And I turned my frustration into the writing of an article describing ways in which you could turn frustration into power. I created an illustration for the article as well because I am an illustrator. I'll give you a peek at it here. Those of you familiar with the bindweed will recognize that weed on the top of the illustration. And the creature on the bottom is a tortoise beetle, which will feature in the article. And I was hoping it might be my savior, but it wasn't quite. So, curing the bindweed blues. I love nature. I'm a biologist after all. But we all know that some things are easier to love than others. When I first moved to Colorado, I found just such a Jekyll and Hyde plant. The field bindweed Convolvulus arvensis. Although it looked like an innocent, even attractive morning glory, it coiled around the juniper bushes, strangled the beans, and tied up rose bushes like blushing heroines in a bad melodrama. Moreover, one could reel in their roots like a fishing line until they snapped. But soon the plant's white chalice blooms and tangled vines returned like a vengeful phoenix. I vowed revenge. One day, while sitting in a canvas chair at a ball field and surrounded by a sea of bindweed in full bloom, I noticed a glint of metallic gold in a bindweed leaf. The gold belonged to a pudgy insect called the tortoise beetle, Metriona bicolor, because of its shape. Its hard outer wings arched over its back, glinting in the summer light like a newly minted coin. And the arrow-shaped leaf of the bindweed on which it sat was riddled with holes. Could the tortoise beetle be the culprit? Was a mechanism for revenge at hand? I collected several beetles, diminutive and rather cute like their ladybug relatives, and placed them in a petri dish with some bindweed leaves. By and by, the beetles laid eggs that hatched into oval-shaped, bright yellow larvae, fringed with feathery spines and terminating in a forked tail. The delightful larvae ate bindweed with abandon. They piled up feces and shed skins on their tail forks and held them over their backs like parasols, presumably to confuse would-be predators. Clever. Could I breed an army of these things and save gardeners from endless days of bindweed blues? I needed to know more. Bindweeds, it turns out, owe much of their success to being invaders from Eurasia. They hitchhiked with ornamental and food crops and found fertile ground in Virginia as early as 1739. The Great Plains suffered a bindweed plague in 1877, attributed, according to Chris Zuhar in a USDA paper, to Ukrainian settlers using wheat contaminated with bindweed seed. Bindweed seeds display great fortitude. They can survive in soil for 40 years. Their taproots burrow 20 feet or more into the soil, storing food reserves in case gardeners try to rip them to shreds in frenzied bouts of weeding. Tortoise beetles appear to be no more than an inconvenience to bindweed. The Colorado Department of Agriculture says that the bindweed gallmite, Asaria malherbe, has proven to be effective in reducing bindweed infestations. I never tried enlisting gallmites. Prevention of bindweed infestation is the best cure, but usually we don't think about bindweed until their coils are strangling a green friend of ours. The other options are maintain a healthy cover of perennial plants to discourage bindweeds from rooting, and pull them up and mow lawns regularly so that you exhaust their reserves below ground. In other words, be more persistent than convolvulus. Show that plant that humans are the more pernicious weed. Tortoise beetles provide entertainment of their own. Squeeze them gently and they change from metallic gold to dull red. The color change seems to be a function of growth and stress level. Tortoise beetles build their wings with a three-tiered, loosely packed structure of chitin above a smear of red pigment. Each layer of chitin is a different thickness and contains patches of nano-sized channels or grooves. When these channels fill with bodily fluids, the layers smooth out and become perfect mirrors that provide the metallic sheen. When the fluids disappear at death, or because of some lesser stressor, the sheen disappears and fades to muted red. I never exacted revenge on bindweed, but I did learn a lot. Curiosity about the natural world and the knowledge it provides serves as a powerful antidote to the bindweed blues. But be mindful, curiosity can be addictive, and we all know what the proverb says it did to cats. Well, thanks very much for listening to me, and I hope that I have helped to alleviate at least a measure of your bindweed blues. Thank you.